Hello, brothers and sisters. Raven here. Today, I want to discuss a little something that came from a book I'm reading by Blair Adams. It's one that is not too long, so though I haven't gone through a lot, I have gone through what you could call a significant amount of it. And I'll tell you, it does not stay on topic, as always. It is called Saving Marriage, Family and Community. So, supposedly, this is all about marriage. But it's not. Not at all. This is about something else. Though I haven't finished, I can already tell by the way it's being set up, he's making marriage into something it isn't, while still trying to make it sound like he's still teaching it's what it always was. Which is the way he often does things. We've seen it again and again. But the reason I want to talk about it today is because of one particular part. In this book, he gets to talking about what one man said about it after many years of marriage, and said that he and his wife had written their own vows and wished they hadn't, that they had stuck to the traditional vows. Now, think about that for a second. This is what Blair is pushing. That the vows shouldn't in any way be personal. They need to be following this tradition. We've seen that again and again in his teachings. He really holds a high regard for traditions. We've also seen again and again his refusal of the individual. Unless it's him, of course. But throughout this book, you see it. Over and over and over, he is really coming after the individual, attacking the individual. The way he does this is the way he always does it, where he takes something that is wrong, that is incorrect, that is extreme, and by showing it is extreme, causes you to assume that the truth has to be the exact opposite. Again, leaving out everything in between and saying if one extreme is wrong, you have to go to the other extreme. Which is what he does here. He points out that we should never put ourselves at the top. We are not God. Should not worship ourselves. And because of that, he, without even saying it, causes you to assume that because of that, that means you have to be completely rid of self. And he starts using that whole concept of being self-sacrificial. And instead of treating it as what it is, of meaning that you care more about others than yourself, and makes it into a matter of making it where you practically hate yourself and are trying to sacrifice yourself, be rid of it, kill it. But that's not what self-sacrifice is. It's about love for somebody else, not hate of yourself. But that's very much what he pushes in this. And what I'm going to read right now is this portion right after he brings up what this one man said about the vows. And watch what he says here. The vows should express, then, the couple's voluntary recognition of an authority that will draw each of them out of themselves. Again, being rid of the self. So this isn't about offering themselves to this person, it's about being rid of themselves. And conform them to the image of a world incompatibly beyond anything they could ever create for themselves. But who or what transcendent to the individual's own will and opinion could even hold him or her accountable to such vows? Okay, that's a good question. But, again, remember, the self-sacrifice isn't about killing yourself It's about giving yourself to them. He's making it sound the opposite. It's about completely being rid of yourself, not giving yourself to them. He then, within that context, says that there has to be something that takes that position. In other words, something you're putting above yourself. But in this case, replacing yourself. Remember that. Replacing yourself, not above yourself. He continues on with this. This again brings up the question of what will have authority in our lives and how it will exert itself. As said, some authorities are external and coercive, while others are internalized and non-coercive. So which will be our source of authority? Now, whether you take his view or not, if you are a Christian, you truly are a Christian, immediately your thought is going to be God. Of course, God is the one in authority. Of course, God is the one above us. We bow to him. He doesn't give an answer. He poses the question. The answer is very indirect. He actually, in the paragraphs after this, gives multiple potential answers, but never identifies what the authority is. But note, this is the closest he comes to it, and this fits in with what he's written around this. So beyond a natural marriage, the church, as the body of Christ, also proposes marriage, though a different, greater marriage, as the answer for being together, for bringing together the entire human family and providing a context, a culture, a nurturing habitat that can sustain all lesser marriages. This church is being made into this other marriage that is above this marriage they're asking about. So they've just given it that authority over this marriage, though it doesn't say it is the authority that it was looking for. It does give it that authority and says that it will sustain these lesser marriages. I don't have to read any more of this book. I've gone through about a fourth of it, and I can already tell you this whole book is taking marriage away from being under God and making it under them. Under Blair Adams, the leadership of Homestead Heritage. That's what this whole book becomes about. They are going to save marriage. Their community will do it. Remember what he said. The vows should express, then, the couple's voluntary recognition of an authority that will draw each of them out of themselves and conform them to the image of a world incomparably beyond anything they could ever create for themselves. Based on what I just read earlier and this, you put it all together, here's what it's saying. The vows should express, then, the couple's bowing to Homestead Heritage, to be rid of themselves and conform to the image of this culture we are creating. That's what that says. If that doesn't scream cult to you, you really need to stop and consider what you think a cult is. Being rid of self, rid of themselves, to come to this marriage. What takes that place? The community of Homestead Heritage. You are supposed to put yourself in a place where you are giving yourself to them. You're putting them first, putting them before yourself. But the ultimate, the top, has to be God over the whole marriage, not the church, not Homestead Heritage, not Blair Adams. But because they think you need to be rid of yourselves completely, they're not going to talk that way. Because if they did that, they'd be pretty much making you God, which they are doing, but they don't want it to be that blunt. They don't want it to be that clear. And they want the authority, so they want it to be more indirect. I haven't even finished this book, and I don't have to. I already know from those paragraphs in that chapter, context of what came before it, and everything I know of their beliefs, this book is going to be about nothing but making sure these marriages are held together by that community. Not by their loyalty to each other or to God, but to that community and the vows they put in place. Because they don't want you to give yourself to them. They don't want you to make this promise. They want you to be gone and have control. They want the control. You're gone. So it shouldn't be your vow. It should be their vow. That's what this comes down to. If you look at the back of the cover, on the synopsis, it says this at the end. Yet, saving marriage, family, and community does more than expose and uncover. It shows how only a lasting change brings lasting relationships. Not a lasting relationship, lasting relationships. A lasting change. What change? A change of you? No, the change is that you're gone. It's no longer you. This is something I've been coming to appreciate more and more and more about just the way family, marriage, it all works, is that it really puts it in a place where it needs to be led by God, not by man. Our world keeps trying to put more and more laws on marriage. To do that, to have control of the marriage, it has been taking away the rules God has put on it. So what our world has been doing has been trying to destroy it by recreating it to where they have control of it, not God. Homestead Heritage is doing the very same thing in this book. It tries to sound like it's coming against what the world's doing, coming against the way the world's promoting homosexual marriage, against open relationships, things like that. But the problem is, the reason our world's trying to get rid of those rules is to create their own. In the same way, Homestead is trying to make these rules about following them and their community, not God. Quite a bit of mind games in this. As I said, I haven't finished yet, but what I've read, I can already see the way this would trick people. I can understand it. Really, I don't blame people for falling for this. I get it. It's showing so much of the perversity and distortion of marriage in the world today. It's showing that things so many of us can't stand. But what it's putting in its place is very deceptive and does not fix the problems. It's not putting God in authority again. It's putting them in authority again. It's putting Homestead in authority. I am going to keep going through this book. I am going to finish reading it, but I don't think I'll be talking about it again because I can already tell this isn't really going to have much as far as real theology goes that I want to share on the main channel, but I want to bring it up here on this channel because this is what we need to be very careful of. This is the one I want to talk about to those of you who are not in Homestead, because this is what everything in our world is trying to destroy. Marriage. Why? Because as is talked about in this book, it is very related to a relationship with God. It's an image of it. And they don't want you to see that clearly. It's something this world wants us to have a very distorted view of. Because it can help us understand Him, help us understand our relationship with Him, help us understand His love for us. But they don't want that. So they'll twist it. They'll distort it to make it what they want it to be. All this weight on these vows. These vows that we use are not from Scripture. There is nothing in the Bible that really teaches you how marriage should happen, aside from your loyalty to that person, your dedication. These rituals, these vows, these celebrations, etc., those are created by the world. Those aren't the important part. Promise isn't supposed to be to the world. It's supposed to be to God and to the one you are uniting with. Homestead wants it to be a promise to the leadership of Homestead Heritage. That's where they want all of your dedication. Not to God, not to this person, to this community. So beware, because this is something that happens outside of cults and in cults both. They want you to be dedicated to their standards, not to this other person, to God and His love, but to them and their teachings and their rituals, their traditions. It's why they have ultimately done more to destroy marriage, destroy marriages that already exist, and create marriages that are a vow not to the other person as much as it is to the community of Homestead Heritage. Because that's how they keep so many people so tightly knit to them and in that cage. I wish more would break free. I'll see you all next week. God bless.